What I find fascinating about designing a car is the adventure that goes with it. From the anguish of the blank page to the finished prototypes.
It's a highly technical object, very challenging with lots of rules and constraints. But you're also touching people's lives very deeply because it gives them their freedom. It's a sort of extension of your home.
What is a beautiful car? What is a beautiful car? It's about desire and feeling good. Something you want to remember your whole life. Not so much because of what it used to represent in the past, its aggressiveness, its power, and all that, but because of all the other things that improve your daily life and let you travel in a gentler, more pleasant, less tiring way. And this car could well achieve that.
What's really incredible about it is how quiet it is. It's really impressive. What's even more impressive compared to other cars we've developed is just how quiet this car is, even though we're going fast.
When we launched the DS in 2010 with the DS3, that was the first DS. That was a test to see if customers were interested. So we were reassured when it did well, and the commercial rollout was phenomenal.
You have style.
In 2011, we started to think about creating a DS brand.
When I joined PSA in January 2012, the company was in a tough spot after the automobile crisis of 2009-2010, and we soon realized that the people who bought DS cars from the Citroën product line were different to the typical Citroën customer or the typical Peugeot customer, and that we had an opportunity to meet their needs by creating a new standalone car brand based on the DS. The idea developed, Carlos Tavares joined the group in 2013,
and I'll never forget this. One of the first announcements that he made in February or March was, now the PSA Group has 3 brands, Peugeot, Citroën, and DS.
Obviously, when you start from scratch, it seems impossible. The question was, how do you establish a brand in a market that never asked for it?
We are a French company. By definition, we are not German. And by definition, we have a history, a culture, and an artistic sensitivity that others do not. And that's lucky, because it will help us to express what makes us different. And what makes us different is that uniquely French savoir-faire.
My first reaction was that I never imagined this could be a brand. I saw it as another car by Citroën. Probably one of the most legendary cars in automotive history.
There's simply no denying the Citroën DS19 has curiosity on its side.
Then in 1955 came the shock, another step into the modern world, the Citroën DS. Eagerly awaited for 5 years, and yet what's released still surprising.
That car was designed by a sculptor. Not a designer, not by a marketing whiz, but by a sculptor.
As you can see on the DS that's just behind me, the outline is remarkable in its fluidity, its simplicity. It's almost like a pebble shaped by the air.
It's a very unique, personal, futuristic thing that combined aesthetics, of course, with audacity, technology, and comfort. It was the winning combination, the perfect cocktail that everyone tries to imitate.
My first DS memory was with my grandfather. I liked watching it lift up when it started and sink when it stopped. And for me, it was, yes, I think it was the first car that I wanted to drive while making an engine noise. like kids do.
I grew up with DS cars, so I have lots of memories of holiday trips. And in our family, the story goes that my dad sold his first DS to pay for my mom's engagement ring.
It was Fantomas's DS. That's one of my favorite films. For me, the most incredible scene is when the DS flies. Obviously.
I don't believe it!
The name hasn't changed, but the shape has. Modern DS cars are typically more luxurious. I understand the desire to compete with German cars like Mini or Audi. And to be a little chauvinistic, I'm glad that a French brand wants to occupy more of an upscale niche than the popular brands. But I'm still waiting for what you might call the unicorn, which is a DS that looks like the old DS.
We can add a few touches, a few nods, which could be defined as retro design. But to make a full retro design, that doesn't make any sense to us.
We've retained the avant-garde spirit of the original DS without making it a retro design. I'm against that as a matter of principle. When Bertoni designed the DS, he wasn't making a retro design based on a traction engine or a Citroën from the 1920s.
My personal philosophy is that you shouldn't reproduce a carbon copy of something that was made during a moment in history. You should understand the equation that the brand offers to its customers, but do that in a contemporary way. What's become very interesting in terms of the DS brand is that it's carried by a strong sense of design. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but that's how I see it.
My passion for car design was born out of my passion for drawing. At school, while my friends played football, I drew cartoons. Then my love of cars started when I was 10. It was a little blue car, the Alpine A110, and I fell in love with that little blue coupe. And I combined the two. I like to draw, I like cars. Why not become a designer?
Thierry Métrose is a creator above all, like all designers. He's full of enthusiasm, he has thousands of ideas. But then those ideas have to be made a reality. We soon started to work on what's a real DS? What makes a DS?
It's not as if you're given total carte blanche, but when you're being trusted to create the brand, the fact is you only get one chance to create a good impression. So that puts a lot of pressure, especially on the first car you make.
And here it is, the SUV by DS.
The DS7 Crossback is the first of the new DS designs. It's the first in a series of new models to be released over the next 4 years.
We can't follow the consensus. If we do, we're dead. We're out of the picture. So we have to make something that stands out. We have to strike a balance between too normal, no one's interested, and this is too extreme for 90% of our customers.
One concept car was pivotal for the brand, the DS Divine, which was launched in 2014. It really embodied the DNA of what our style would become, with a strong look that fed into all of our subsequent projects.
With the DS4, we were very attached to this idea of finesse and lightness. There was one sketch that hooked us right away. It was a car body that was elongated with really, really large wheels. We were overwhelmed by this picture. In a way, all of us were imagining the same object. It all starts with an emotion, a sketch, which we try and convert into a shape, and then we start to sculpt it into a full-scale model to try and not lose that emotion that we got from the initial sketch.
We always try to develop an eye-catching color that will capture the vehicle's personality and make it stand out. Not necessarily our favorite, but the one that will have the most visual impact.
Bit by bit, it becomes a vehicle. We try to capture the essence of the sketch and its most striking aspects, and gradually, it becomes a car for mass production.
We're going to the studio of Lisan de Cône, who we love and who we worked with on our latest concept car, the Aerosport Lounge. Lisan worked with us on many of the car's finishing touches. We made the dashboard and the back of the seats with her using straw marquetry, which has never been used in a car before.
Let me get one to show you. So we take a stick of straw, which is hollow, and we open it by hand. And then we use a tool to flatten it. Once the straw is flat, we have a ribbon, and we stick it in place. It's quite simple, really. You open the straw, flatten it, and stick it. I'm trying not to get any on the leather. I don't know what this is. What's this part for?
That's the door handle. Normally, a little finishing piece would go around that, so you don't need to fold it back.
Actually, I fold it to reinforce it.
To hold it fast.
I prefer that the straw, well, it'll be hidden under your piece, but it'll look like the veneer goes all the way across.
Absolutely, and you can only do that by hand.
By hand, that's right. The raw material is rice straw. When it's a question of design in an artistic sense, in terms of experimentation in the workshop, where you work with a material and refine it, that's something demanding. That's something we do very well here in France. But applying that to cars on an industrial scale, then it gets complicated.
There are two sides. The work we do with these exceptional craftspeople who aren't a part of DS, and indeed, we're lucky enough to have a base in Paris so we can meet with them. Then we're also lucky enough to have our own internal team of upholsterers, and they're the ones who invented the famous pearl stitching, which is part of the DNA of our interiors. They also invented the watch strap pattern that you find on the seats, and that was a real achievement and skill, and something that made a lot of people very, very envious.
It took me a month and a half to create the watch strap. On a single piece of leather, I stitched two specific lines, with more lines at the edge. And on the back, I filled it up with foam. Once it was full, I made what we call decorative stitches. So it's not the same vertically as horizontally. It was quite complex, but once we found the solution, we suggested it to our suppliers, and the first supplier told us no at the time. They didn't know how to do it, that much was clear. And then a company that had recently arrived in France said, "We'll do it. We'll help you set this up." It was incredibly creative work at first. We made the watch strap pattern, We made leather that was burnished, distressed even. We stepped outside of our comfort zone. And so, they appreciated that.
The details are precise, refined, very French.
Everything is designed. You don't get the feeling that they've just stuck some fittings from one car to just make another car.
But then, the Germans, like Audi or even Mercedes with the Maybach, when they make something luxurious, it's more about simplicity.
We were accused sometimes of being a bit bling-bling, especially when we launched the DS7. And we don't regret it. We own that decision. Because if you want to tell a story when you're just starting a brand, you need to make a statement. If you want to be noticed, you have to speak up. But now we're an established brand, so we can change the recipe a little bit. We can be more subtle with what we're saying and bring more refinement to our interiors. And that's a good thing.
You have to go to extremes before you can be reasonable. When you're expressing something, you use broad strokes to see where the potential lies. With this car, we really wanted to work on the tactile surfaces.
La zone de contact.
The rod along the dashboard, combining the air vent with the window opener, the main control unit, those were the essentials. Then it was about perfecting them, finding the right specs, the right proportions, so that it all fit together in a coherent way. Because once you're inside, everything has to cohere, and we managed to tie it all together.
Working on the detail, it was all about balance from the start. And it offered potential, shall we say, to help the brand to stand out from the crowd. Firstly, compared to the company's own brands, but also to other brands, taking that process as far as possible. Only DS does that. And now the DS brand really has become a worldwide ambassador for French creativity. And if we keep that creativity up, soon the world will know it.
It's a high-performance car. It has 360 horsepower, so the acceleration is impressive. But we didn't want to make a sports car. It has to travel long distances with a high level of comfort. The car has to be both stable, which it is, and comfortable.
I just heard a little noise at the back. It has just the right amount of flair. The acoustics are just right, the frame holds together as a single piece, but I can hear a few little noises that need to be fixed. But it's very nearly ready.
Customers may like it as is, but it's not quite ready for DS, so we'll look into that.
One thing we take great care over when creating a sense of serenity is, how does the silence feel?
The first thing we're looking for is total silence inside the car. Before we start, others have worked on the engine noise, on the window acoustics, on the frame, which is welded to prevent vibrations. So when we get the car, it's already perfect. But as we put sound through the speakers, we discover other vibrations, which we fix before refining the audio system. And once that has been done, we start listening to music. And as we listen to a variety of types of music, we make adjustments until we reach a point where we say, okay, that's good. Once we can listen to it and say, we can improve on this, then we use a tool that subjectively measures the psychoacoustics. And that lets us assign a grade from 0 to 10 and find out if we've achieved our aims.
What grade did the DS9 get?
I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Do we need silence in our daily lives? Of course we do. But then, I also like cars that make a noise, that have more of a fiery spirit.
Not many customers say, I want a silent car. But when you give them the option of a silent car, they're surprised. And before long, they're hooked.
It's about well-being. It's about the experience, but which experience? Today, a car is an experience, but you have to ask what kind.
It's all about pleasure, the pure pleasure of driving the car. One thing that motivates the DS brand is Formula E, with the DS Techeetah team.
We won the World Championship 2 times in a row.
We beat Porsche, we beat BMW, Audi, Jaguar, and all the others. So I think that our motorsports experience can be passed on to the DS Automobiles brand.
Is this the last one? Yeah.
It's funny because the earlier you turn, the more grip.
Yeah. You go like,
yeah, you don't want to touch it, but you need to turn in early.
Is my ride ready?
Mode in-lap.
It's fun out here by the track because it means you can keep doing interviews even when the car drives by. It's stuck. You can hear it too.
The expertise of DS Performance, especially in power regeneration, is the reason we won Formula E. It means we can take what we've learned and put that knowledge into our cars.
You brake, slow down, and reuse that energy later on. We're a research lab. It's sexy and fun because it's sport.
We're competing, but we're also helping cars to progress, to make them greener, more sustainable. That's definitely a good thing for the DS brand and for automobiles in general.
As a result, that makes us feel like more than just drivers, like we're part of something bigger too.
Here we're in the process of turning a DS9 into a performance 4x4. We're adding a speed reduction gear whose technology is similar to the one used in Formula E. So the car has gone from 225 to 360 horsepower.
Formula E has been very helpful when it comes to energy use. The dashboard shows whether you're using the electric motor or the combustion engine while accelerating. If we brake, it immediately shows you whether you're using the electric motor to absorb the energy or, in the case of emergency braking, if you're using the disc brakes to slow the car. And that information is extremely helpful. It allows us to optimize the car's automation while in electric mode. There's a clear difference. The electric motor is at the back, and it's 110 horsepower. It's in direct contact with the wheels. It gives you the power to accelerate. There are very few other high-performance cars that offer this much power from a hybrid electric engine. So we have about 2 months' work left on the car. 2 months from now, it will all be finished.
We're all here to discuss the colors and materials for the DS4. It would also be good to discuss options for the upcoming limited editions.
We have a lot of beautiful options. I don't know what you think, Marion, but I think the mother of pearl and the marca tree are a must. And this one is more...
Wooden lace.
It's more delicate.
More daring.
If it works, it'll be very special. It's reminiscent of the DSX E-Tense concept car with the perforated panels.
Yes, that's for the hi-fi.
For the hi-fi.
Well, it's a challenge because we managed to keep the wood grain effect. It almost looks like metal.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be. We've seen an evolution in customer expectations. It's a particular type of elitism. They want natural materials, short runs, respect for the environment. So that creates values that are very different. We're leaning more towards serenity, simplicity, a sense of zen.
The luxury comes from the materials and the design. But these days, can you separate that from a car's technology? I don't think so. Overall, people want that in their cars.
It has to be technically impressive. The interface has to be intuitive.
And we expressed that fully in our latest concept car, the Aerosport Lounge, whose interior was designed to be extremely peaceful. We even went as far as removing all the screens.
So now, you could say DS has understood the idea of simplicity. It's still like an airplane cockpit, but the materials are more delicate or sensitive, I suppose. There are no buttons. They appear at your fingertips when you need them.
The feedback, the touch-sensitive response, was about getting comfortable with the idea of being listened to. As a human being, when we speak, we make little signs and gestures. How do we design a machine that can exhibit behaviors to match the way we interact with other humans?
For the moment, it's incredible in a concept car. But we're not ready to mass produce it so that you can use it in an interface or an indicator. But that incredible ultrasound technology is something we're working on, even if it doesn't happen overnight.
The really exciting thing is that soon, in June, theoretically, we'll be rolling out the first DS4s. And we all love that. It's not just me. Everyone from every team loves to drive in a car that hasn't been released yet. People recognize it, take photos. They know what it is, but it's never been seen on the road before.
It's hard to say what DS is still missing. They just need that little something extra before they match the level of the German manufacturers. I also think luxury brands need time. If you compare DS to Chanel, for instance, it seems like Chanel has a much stronger heritage. Really, every brand is built on its own history. So I think we should be patient with DS. But it looks like the steps they've taken so far are entirely coherent with what they want to do.
I just came from the studio where we saw the interior of the car that we're launching in 2024. There it is. We know where we're going. We already have the car.
You're always thinking it over, trying to find a way to create a low sedan, a coupe. The car that's in your head.
I think you shouldn't listen to others. It's about listening to yourself and ignoring all of those marketing studies so that you're able to create a truly iconic car. So the brand can grow and develop even more than it has already. And to do that, above all, it takes ambition and audacity. Then it all comes to you.